Okie doke. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. I'm going to be talking about Massive Sol System today. Particularly, I'm going to be talking about a few changes I've made today. The first change is pretty small, but like way overdue and incredibly easy to do. This is clipping because it's too close to the star. This was a bad example. Oh no. Pivot. No, it's fine. Let's check out New Luna. New Luna's super small, right? But we can actually get up close to it now. It was really easy to fix. I had to change something that was 1.6 to 1.5 and something that was like a 3 to a 1 in the defines file. It's incredibly easy. Basically, you can just zoom in closer to planets than you used to be able to. Because I've sized down all the planets. Oh, weird, I didn't realize that wasn't a 3D object. That's only a 2D object. Okay, because I sized down the size of planets, it's important that you're able to zoom in more. Okay, we'll check that off the list of things to talk about. You can zoom in more! Very exciting! It actually is, because if we go to, the titular Sol System, which of course is uninhabited because we had a Commonwealth of Man start here, we can see that there are tiny moons around. Well, Ceres. Ceres is really the best example of, it's not a moon, but a tiny object. Maybe the smallest object you'd want to zoom in on. Before, you could get about, like, this far away. And now you can get up close and actually admire how this fucking planet is supposed to look. The reason there's like an abyssal black hole down here is Ceres isn't a perfect spherical object, so mapping its surface to a sphere creates some oddities in the poles. If you look carefully at the poles of any of these, there's some weird shit going on. Just don't look too closely. Other similar things that were really heartbreaking were the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. I mean, these are gorgeous planets. Well, planetoids, moons. And if you can't get in that close, you can't see the level of detail here. Particularly, it's kind of heartbreaking with Europa in particular. I think Europa is by far the prettiest planet in the solar system. Or Enceladus. Europa or Enceladus, in my mind. So I'm very happy with that change. It's a small thing, but I've been trying to figure out how the fuck to get that to work ever since I rolled back system scale. And I'll have more to say about system scale here in a few minutes. So that's nice and fixed. The latest dev diary for Stellaris is talking about performance improvements that they are, Paradox being they, are making to the game. Effectively, the working strategy right now is to try to effectively reduce the population of late game Stellaris in half. Because a lot of the processing really just goes into pop management. Cannot say how thrilled I am that they've decided to take that direction. Pop sprawl is kind of obnoxious. It's a huge performance hit. I'm just thrilled that they're working in that direction. It made me realize, and this has been a recurrent thing, we have had way too many fucking habitable planets with this mod. And reason being was I was being way too generous with the habitable zone. In vanilla, habitable planets can spawn anywhere between, let's see, 6 distance to 10 distance away. No, what? Is it really that small? No, I'm sorry, 60 distance to 100 distance away. I reduced that to 5 to 60. So, in effect, I actually expanded the habitable range by 15. I made 15 more distance in which a habitable planet could spawn in MSS. Why did I do that? I think I made it 60 so that, and I didn't know better at the time when I was first making these arbitrary decisions. 60 made it so that, oh, no. Reason it was set at 60 is there are some very, very, very optimistic estimates for what the habitable zone potentially is, even around our own sun. And these estimates put the outer edge of the solar system anywhere up to 10 AU. 10 AU would be 100 distance in the scaling model that I use, and that is just insanely far away. Insanely far away. That's incredibly far. Pluto in AU. Yeah, Pluto, for example, is 40 AU away. 40 astronomical units. But this study from 2011 saying that terrestrial planets that accrete 10 to thousands of bars of primordial hydrogen from the protoplanetary disk may be habitable at distances that extend as far out as 10 AU. So, a fourth of the way to Pluto. That's insane! That's insane. That's like the orbits of the gas giants, or the closer to gas giants. Anyway, that's an absurd distance. And basically, Stellaris really likes there to be habitable planets. What we're looking at right now is it with a 1% spawn, or a 100% spawn rate. So just the default 1 setting, and we can take a look at what's changed here. What I've gone and done is I've retaken a look at all the maths of, like we were just looking at, habitability estimates of our own solar system, because that's really the base model that we use for any estimates about other solar systems, other star systems, habitability in general. I took a look at K-type habitability zones and M-type habitability zones as well, just to round it out well, because K-type and M-type habitability, or habitability systems, star systems, are much more numerous and much more common than our own. K-type actually might be possibly the best for life to evolve around. Unfortunately, Stellaris, like I've said in the past, doesn't allow me to set variable habitable zone ranges depending on the star or black hole or whatever, which is really disappointing. I'm sure there's probably a way to code around that, but working within the shared vanilla infrastructure that most other mods use, and therefore trying to make this as compatible as possible with other mods, I can't really fuck with that too much. So what I've done for this build, and I really like what I've been seeing in the tests today, the habitable zone has been decreased to ranging from 3 distance to 20 distance. That's down from 5 to 60. You know, before it was 55 total distance, and we're down to 17. we're down to a sliver. Prior, that 55 was pretty evenly split between only dry planets, only wet planets, only cold planets. Now I have more of a gradient. For distances between 3 and 7 can only be dry, 8 and 9 could be dry or wet, 10 to 13 can be wet only, 14 and 15 can be wet or cold, 16 to 20 can be cold only. And what that does is it helps to, and this is pretty similar to what I already had, it's mostly just adjusted values. It makes it so, and we can take a look at this, that's a bad example. Those are both continental worlds. Those are both dry worlds. This is an okay example, I hope. What should happen is you have spawned an ocean world here. Oh, it's a trinary system. Damn you! I want to find 2 worlds, bad example. Those are both dry. This should work, right? Oh, they're both moons, god damn it. What we should be seeing, and here, perfect. The dry worlds will be closer in than the cold worlds, and habitable worlds will be somewhere in between there. There's a small chance that some silly or strange stuff can happen, but for the most part, you won't be seeing too much of that. Which is, thrilling, honestly. I really like how things look a lot more now. The first thing I did today to try to deal with... I loaded up, I'm like, okay, there are way too fucking many habitable moons. Step 1 was all gas giants can now only have a maximum of 5 moons. With the exception of, you know, our own solar system, or if we get accurate enough metrics, telemetrics, information on another solar system to prove definitively that they have 5 substantially sized moons or more, I can adjust that fittingly, or accordingly. Moons now orbit more closely than they used to. They used to orbit from 1 to 3 distance away. Now they orbit 1 to 2 distance away, so either 1 or 2. It just helps keep gas giant systems a bit tighter. They tend to get really big, especially when they had like 10 moons around them. They could really blow up and take up a solar system. So we've dialed that back a little bit. Importantly, I realized while testing today, my planetary diversity compatibility fix, let's say, those planet types, because they counted as habitable and they were marked as okay for starting planets, when AI randomly generated empires, they could generate on these non-existent planet types that didn't have models or anything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the planetary diversity compatibility files and just push them to planetary diversity patch submod. That's super easy. Just, you know, subscribe to it, load it after this mod and planetary diversity. It should go planetary diversity massive solar system patch. You should know this. If you don't, hey, welcome to modding. It's pretty simple. It sounds overwhelming, but it's all very logical and concise. Yep. So that's embarrassing, and obviously the fictional systems mod has been changed for that as well, and I'll make a note on there. When I was working on it, I'm like, isn't this gonna generate these planet types? And then I hopped in game after game after game and I wasn't seeing it. And the reason I wasn't seeing it is I like to play with 0 empires spawning when I'm testing, so I can look at the random systems and make sure my code is working. But the bug was in these empire home systems that I was working on today. So after I got that habitable zone stuff sorted out, and I went in and messed with miscellaneous system spawns, and now we can start looking at some of these spawns. The habitable ranges have been adjusted, and we'll be seeing accordingly habitable planets being a lot closer in. Gas giants are now much, 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 much less likely to have habitable moons at all. It's still possible, but basically you have to roll only 1 inner system planet at the minimum range, only 1 habitable zone planet at the minimum range, and then 1 gas giant at the minimum range. You can do it, and I've seen it show up, but it's not as common as it used to be. But still, moons can be habitable, and here's a great example: an arid world around a molten world. Jesus, you have so many molten planets. A fun bug I created today was I changed all the habitability zones except for Gaia planets. Gaia planets don't use the habitable planet minimum distance or maximum distance modifier. They just use straight values. I forgot about that. So a shit ton of Gaia planets spawned in because they were the only habitable planet that could spawn from 20 to 60. So there were just so many of them. It was funny, but I rolled it back. So yeah, these systems are even more realistic than they were before, which was already more realistic than any other mod out there, including Real Space. God, I really like these. Really do. Alright, so let's take a look at some of these Empire systems. So we can take a look at the changes I've made today and how those will go in effect. Now, we can, great first example, see that even though they have a starting planet, and typically the initializers make it so that no other habitable planets can spawn, I think that's dumb. So instead, we'll see this is a trinary spawn, and in a trinary spawn, your home planet spawns around your main star here, along with a bunch of god-awful molten planets, apparently, a toxic moon, a gas giant with some barren moons. Ooh, and yeah. This is not the most exciting little start, but over here, in one of your companions, you have a habitable world. And of course, these are always randomized, so you can't bet on it, but this is not uncommon. And there's no reason why they shouldn't have habitable worlds. The only things that trinary and binary systems don't have are the outer world spawns, which are meant to emulate Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, that sort of thing. So you're not missing out much there. What's going on over here? Man, those asteroids are far out. Yeah, that's by design. Not much going on here. Nice little alpine world with a molten moon. It's not always perfect. Empire initializers do not take into consideration. I can't say, Empire Initializer 1 can only be used if habitability is dry or continental or wet or cold. I can't do that. So if you pick the right Empire start where the designer from Paradox wanted it very close in, you pick a tundra or an alpine world, it's gonna look a little silly for your alpine world to be surrounded by molten planets, but I can't control everything. But what I can control, I can do quite a lot with. We are seeing a lot of molten worlds close in. It typically goes molten, toxic, barren, cold barren, frozen. And we should see that succession here. Barren. Well, yeah, gas giant. Gas giant didn't have any moons. That's super uncommon. Barren with a frozen moon. And barren and gas giant. Huh, yeah, that system isn't as large as they can get. So yeah, not the most impactful stuff. Wow, you spawn those moons in super close. Yeah. Honestly, my pride and joy are not the Empire starts. I'm kind of confined by Stellaris and these systems just needing to have to spawn in habitable worlds. These gas giant moon Empire starts were tricky. Because I basically had to set it so that mathematically this orbit can never be above 20, because if it was, then this wouldn't make sense to spawn. I mean, it would still spawn, it just wouldn't be logically consistent with what we have going on here. And by God, I'll be damned if I can't have logical consistency. Yeah, these systems are an absolute joy, the miscellaneous systems, and I'll start panning them out more and more to the other script files or other initializers. But my god, it looks so much better to me. And it plays so much better now. I had, like I think I mentioned in the past week, I've been playtesting my mod a lot, along with a slew of other mods I like to play with, Gigastructural Engineering, Ruler Level System, various event mods, obviously, like all Gwilly's mods, tech mods, tradition expansions, etc., etc. I just I completely overhauled the game, basically. It's been fun, but playing on a huge size galaxy like this, I think I settled maybe the whole thing, maybe it was smaller, maybe it was a medium size. Oh yeah, anywho, it was some size, and I look at the number of humans, and it was over 3,000. I'm like, that's why the game is slowed down so damn much. I have made way too many habitable worlds, so that was a big motivator for me to work on today, and I am seeing substantially fewer worlds. Still, there being systems where there are 3 planets or 2 planets fairly consistently, and we are seeing it fairly consistently. It's not a thing that Stellaris, it didn't do it so much on its own. Trappist is a prime example of this. Trappist does, but it's the exception to the rule. And again, for the record, that's my Trappist, not Paradox's. Though, very cool of them to include Trappist in the game at all. I think I'm still hemming and hawing a little over, the number of moons that gas giants can have. God, I wish I could cap it like gas giants can only have 1 habitable moon, and then the rest uninhabitable. But I can't. I can't do that. I can't do that without some really cumbersome coding, and I want this to be pretty clean and quick and easy. And I mean, this is a great example. Even if I were to do that, habitable worlds can still have moons of their own, which can then in turn be various degrees of habitable. So it's just a roll of the dice. And honestly, I wouldn't be playing with this many habitable worlds if I were playing on my own. And keep in mind that we are primitives on? Are primitives on? Primitives should be on. They are on, just not common. Is this an event? Hold up. Is this an event system, or is this my doing? Oh, yeah, this is not my doing. Look at that orbit. God, no, I want to do that. This is a paradox. This is a paradox. I haven't gone back in and played around with the, and look at how equidistant these are. This is a paradox system. I haven't gone in and messed around with primitive systems in a bit, and man, I'm really not seeing a lot of them. Is this one of mine? Yeah, I want to go in and fuck with their spawn rate next. I might get that done today, but not yet. For context, the way I would play this mod, and you do you. I'd keep that on full, but I'm just dialing all of these other ones to off just so we can get a good look at this. I would have habitable worlds at 25%. Let's go ahead and look at what 25% looks like. I also didn't have guaranteed habitable worlds on there because it's dumb and I don't like it, and those systems are they exist in my mod and they're scaled like everything else. It's fucking dumb. Like, oh, always 2 jumps away is a planet that you can miraculously inhabit. No, fuck off with that. I like it being a roll of the dice. If we go to expansion planner, get rid of surveyed here. I really wish it would just say total number of planets. Huh. That shouldn't have happened. these three shouldn't exist. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look at what the fuck happened there. Because maximum planet size should be 22. Neat! Well, that's exciting. I found, oh, that's why. These are added by events. Yeah, alright, never mind. I haven't gone through and, trimmed those down. Alright, never mind. Less exciting. Yeah, look at this system. This isn't my work. Look at how ugly this is. Neshmet is, well, this might be one of mine. No? No, I don't think it is. It might be. On the whole, it's a lot of fucking habitable planets, right? But it's fewer. Far, far fewer than it used to be. I highly recommend playing this on times 0.25 habitable world. I mean, even if just purely for performance reasons is why I highly recommend that. Regardless of what empire size you play with, just 0.25 or galaxy size you play with, it just runs better. And even in a tiny galaxy, the number of planets that we have to play with here is enough to make them essentially nameless and unimportant. God, I really gotta go fuck around with that Sea of Consciousness. Yeah, it is. I gotta go fuck around with that next. Always more work. But yeah, that's basically what I've gotten done today. Yeah, this is one I made. They don't always spawn in a straight line like this, I promise. Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But holy shit, this should run so much better than it had been prior to today. Just because of the less planets means less pops means better performance. And that's, yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Now, I'm not done for the day. I'll probably look into those planets. They're breaking my scale system. Darn event-spawned planets. And then I also want to look into making a submod that reintroduces system scale. A submod, because system scale breaks... I think it breaks gigastructural engineering in particular, which is why it was so important to me to do away with it. But it makes the game so damn pretty. Like Sol System is, you know, it is quite pretty.
Situation log has been updated.
Get all this ugly garbage out of orbit here. Again, downscaled ships, I highly recommend playing with. Because downscaled ships makes those space stations not fucking massive. I cannot impress upon you enough just how much the scaling makes this just feel so much bigger. And it slows stuff down quite a bit as well. Yeah, that's how I started down that rabbit hole today. That is how I started down the rabbit hole today. Today, I was reading a mod on the Star Trek New Horizons subreddit. A post on the New Horizons subreddit complaining about how quickly you colonize and expand in that mod, and very agreed, it's way too fast. And somebody was suggesting the real space scaled system scale hard, I don't know, the name of the mod is kind of a word soup, but basically more difficult realistic scale, so that ships are slower, distances feel further apart, so it takes longer, especially early on, to cross systems, to make FTL jumps, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that being a thing with my system scale, and I kind of miss that. Maybe I'll make a submod. And then I didn't work on that at all. So today, fewer moons. Moons are closer. Habitable zone has been fucked with and works way better. Performance should be better. Number of habitable planets should be fewer. Empire starts have been improved. Systems generally have been improved, though I still have to go and fuck with some special systems, but like, You can zoom in, right? You can zoom in on these fucking textures I work so hard on. And planetary diversity has now been pushed to a patch, or compatibility has been pushed to a patch/submod, and obviously there will be a link. So that's it for now. I'm enjoying this. I am enjoying working on these mods. Again, I'm very open to ideas, criticism, critique, new interpretations, because I only got one brain, and you make better art with more brains. So, if you have any thoughts, let me know. If you don't, then don't. Until later, I'm going to say toodaloo, take care. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.